Hey guys, Mavel here once again, and before the PoE2 hype all starts and we start putting out videos and content of that, I did want to quickly go over my recent playthrough of Last Epoch. As you may know, I've played it a good amount in the past since it came out with the 1.0 and then the couple leagues after and stuff, and it's been a good, fun-ish time. This time around, I wasn't super excited. I didn't see anything like game-breaking or changing to really bring me back, but we did have time before PoE2, and there was at least one new ability for me to try out that I wanted to kind of get into, which is this one here, Flay on a Lich. That acts kind of like a flicker strike kind of build. And it is pretty fun. It took a while to get off the ground. It took a while for it to actually become a build, and I wasn't sure it even would become a build because it didn't seem like it was going to provide an obvious enough amount of power or play style, but through perseverance and a bunch of kind of little trial and error, it turned into kind of a build that plays kind of like a flicker strike and can be used as more than just a sort of gap closer, which is what I initially thought it was. The skill and the build is kind of split into two parts. When I'm doing this little teleport blink thing and then hitting stuff, that's kind of the new skill, Flay doing its thing, and then we're just right clicking for single target with harvest, which is basically the same as what you would have done with a previous Lich build. In the end, got it to like the regular Aberoth fight, so corruption 300 or so. Did all of the progression up to that point with the harbingers and the monoliths and stuff, and yeah, that's pretty much all there is to it. It was a fun little character, and I'll go over the build for you if anyone wants to play this as well in a couple minutes. It won't take too long, don't worry about that. And yeah, in general, just a bit not super excited about Last Epoch with what's happening with their changes and stuff. It just doesn't really feel like enough to bring you back to the game for a decent amount of time. So I'll just spend like a minute or two talking about the game at this point, I suppose, because there's not too much else to say before we just go over the character and then move on to the big PoE2 sort of action and hype. So yeah, getting to the end game really does still kind of feel the same as always. This is the new league mechanic here, and it's supposed to be the new league mechanic, but you don't see it very often throughout the game to begin with, throughout the campaign and stuff. And then once you get into the mapping system, monoliths, you don't see it very often either, and it's not super game changing. You fight like one beast, this thing here basically, and it sometimes gets a different ability when you like choose for it to have a different ability, and then it drops like a bit of extra of the materials that you use for the game. And that's pretty much it. It seems like a very shallow kind of mechanic, and it doesn't really bring much to the game, I don't think. The new items are kind of cool, by all means, but you can only have one of them, and that's it. And you see them right from the very start, so it's kind of weird that you don't really have a sense of mystery or progression towards anything there. You just, at level 10 or whatever it is, see the shopping list of cool items you might at one point have, and then work towards it. And you can only have one of them, which is kind of disappointing because that's also something to do with upgrading the one big modifier, like Exalted from tier 7 to tier 8, is potentially game changing for certain, items, builds, slots, but once again, only one of them. So I don't know, it's all kind of weird. So the league mechanic didn't really bring too much back, and the monolith system didn't really bring anything new to the table. So as soon as you kill Aberoth, as soon as you've done 300 corruption, your incentive and desire to play kind of falls off a cliff pretty bad, and I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. Who knows in the future? Maybe there'll be like bigger updates and stuff, and yeah, some reason to come back. For now, I'm just going to play this one character, and then we'll move on to the PoE2. Not feeling super stoked on Last Epoch at this point because I think it's a good game that you can come into and play for a bit. And a few weeks, I'd say, a good few weeks of exploring the systems and the characters and stuff, and then there feels like little reason to like come back after that until some bigger updates. So apologies for being kind of a shill for the PoE 1 and 2 at this point, but those still currently seem to be the biggest ARPGs that are out there that give you reason to come back to the game because they do bring a lot to the table every single new update. So that's currently where we're at. Let me go ahead and show you how this character was built in case you want to give this game a shot or give this character a shot, since it is relatively fun. So here's my character level 96 Lich Flay. Is what we call ourselves, and it is based on the Flay skill. So that's the new one that was brought to the table this league season, whatever. Spirit step, 3 meters forward, so like kind of blink, teleport, and each enemy killed by the attack will release a blood eruption. So it's those blue balls that are coming out of the character or the sort of mobs around me. Every so often, they are blue because I have converted pretty much everything to cold, and it is triggering off of like every second attack, so it doesn't have to be on kill. It can just be on the actual attack. A good portion of the reason we play Flay in this build, or the reason it's in the build, is the gap closer, so it blinks around, it does some AoE, but it also gives you a pretty large buff thanks to these boots over here. So I leveled and played the character with Harvest and Flay pretty much all the way. So Harvest being our right click, just attack there. Up until I got these boots, and it's just an okay build. It does, a little bit of a gap close, and it's just a bit of an attack. But then once you get these boots, that's when you start getting a lot of area and also start doing a lot more damage. So then Flay actually has a reason to be used for stacking your buff, and also like does some proper good AoE and sort of clear of its own. So you pretty much need these boots to enjoy the build. Prior to that, you're just playing a pretty basic default build. But I won't really go too far into various interactions or anything. Essentially, this is the setup, and you are using this as your single target. This is your Reaper form, so you turn into a Reaper, and you pretty much sustain it throughout the entirety of your gameplay just by attacking and leeching. And as soon as you're attacking and leeching, then you should be able to sustain this Reaper form pretty much permanently. Not entirely, but pretty much permanently. You've got an Aura of Decay, which is a good part of how we stay alive in our low life state. Thanks to this stuff over here. It's turned into cold as well, so that it can do like cold shred, I think, and enemy res, and also, yeah, I don't know. This is basically my setup. This is my setup for Harvest. It's mostly just for single target damage. And built into that, this is our teleport from Transplant, so it just helps us do a bit of a gap closer. So that's our Aura of Decay. That's our Reap for various damage, AoE, all that sort of stuff. And then that's the Reaper form, which is focused around giving us extra damage. And yeah, I think that's about it on that. The passive tree and why my health looks so weird is basically what's going on there. So because of the passive tree, you can lock your life at half life. So you're basically always going to be a low life build. We are degenning our life continuously thanks to stuff like these gloves. And then we hit a certain point where we're not going to degen anymore, and also turns into ward. So ward is kind of like our energy shield that's on top of our life bar at this point. And yeah, that's why things look very weird there. When we have our Aura of Decay on, you can see we're constantly like healing up our life. Once we attack and leech, we get up to like, maximum low life that we possibly can. And if we're Reaper form, you can see that the health turns a bit green and stuff. So that's basically all the weird stuff going on there. Our passive tree is just picking up, some damage and some life and various whatever the fuck useful stuff, and some leech and some dual wield shit. And yeah, there's not really much need to explain anything there. This is basically what I've landed on the passive tree. I'm sure my build is nowhere near optimal or as good as it can be. It's just what I've come up with as I've traversed SSF gameplay here and figured out stuff for myself. This is one of the new items you can get from the primordial stuff from the season mechanic. It is pretty good for this sort of build. Gives you a lot of extra penetration as well as some move speed and extra levels for your skills. Your offhand is most likely going to be a Trader's Tongue. If you can get attack speed on that thing as well, it's going to be pretty good. And then you get lots of extra skills too. This is the amulet you get very early on from the season mechanic. It's pretty fucking hard to beat. two all skills and it has good implicit stats, and then you just, you know, put whatever you want on there, put crit multi onto it. I was using a basic as fuck chest up to like level 90, but then if you spec into this stuff on your Weaver tree over here, then you can find stuff from dungeons and never actually have to run a dungeon. So this thing dropped and I got 1 LP onto it, and then put my extra flay onto that. Aside from that, it's pretty basic gearing, I think. So, this hat, as per usual, extra int and dex and stuff. Gloves, I think, are pretty bad at the moment, but yep, they give us that ward conversion kind of thing. Very basic melee setup of Siphon of Anguish, Shattered Chains, and then a pretty mid ring that just does a bunch of damage. This isn't very good for us because we don't really use almost anything on it. Doesn't give us plus spells, doesn't give us the ward conversion. So it's basically there for 20% extra health, and then also I put +3 harvest onto it. And yeah, my idols over here are basically just for life and a little bit of crit and stuff. And then this guy over here drops off of the Stolen Lance line, I think, and gives us a bunch of stacking buff. Yeah, I think that's about all there is to it. I was playing SSF. That's what my little Weaver tree looks like. Imprinted, boots for the most part whenever I could. Otherwise just some rings and daggers and stuff. Had this dagger imprinted until I found lots of good ones. So yeah, that's what was going on. Did lots of boots, did lots of daggers, and in the end just got to Aberoth, killed him like fucking 10 times, and pretty much called it a day. We do have PoE 2 coming up, of course, but even without that, I didn't really feel like I was going to make more than one character here, because I more or less played everything I wanted to play prior to this in the game, and then there's only a few new things that showed up with like maybe some minion stuff, and usually they make one particular character or class very overpowered compared to everything else when there's a new update happening, and I try to shy away from that. But once you get to like, maps and your monoliths and stuff, you do your corruptions and get to the certain point where you're pretty much done with the progression system there, it doesn't really feel too good to keep going, at least not to me. Some people push to higher corruption, some people go for Uber Aberoth, which looks like a stupid fight and pretty high requirement for your character. I don't really feel like doing that, and I didn't in the past. So, is what it is. I don't know. But that's currently the state of the game for me. I will maybe be back next time if there's a lot of changes and stuff, but maybe I'll skip another one. We'll see how we go. PoE 2 is looking pretty damn juicy, so I'm going to get into that. Hopefully have some videos about that as well. Hopefully pick some kind of class or playstyle, most likely unarmed, some fisting action. And hopefully some cosplay action too. So with that, thank you very much for watching. See you guys next time.